What if the income stream that dried up wasn't your downfall, but God's way of moving you out of a life that had quietly become too small? When the familiar stops working, you've been faithful, you've tithed, you've worked hard, you've stayed honest, and still, something that used to be steady just stopped. The client you counted on for years walked away, a stream that always came through went quiet, and your first thought was, what did I do wrong? Maybe nothing. There's a picture in Deuteronomy 32 of an eagle that stirs up her nest, deliberately disturbs it, so the young are forced out into flight. The nest doesn't fall apart because something went wrong. It's disturbed because it's time. That dried up stream might not be punishment. It might be God removing a ceiling you'd started mistaking for a sky. Joseph lost every visible safety net before he stepped into his actual assignment. His brothers, his coat, his freedom, his reputation, gone. And at every stage, it looked like collapse. But each loss was also a doorway. Not because suffering is good, but because sometimes the container we're in genuinely cannot hold what's coming next. So sit with this gently. If what used to sustain you has stopped working despite your faithfulness, maybe the question isn't what broke. Maybe the question is, what have I outgrown? What the pressure is revealing. Here's where it gets personal, because financial pressure doesn't just squeeze your bank account. It squeezes you, and whatever comes out under that squeeze is worth paying attention to. Luke chapter 16 verse 10 says it plainly. He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. Luke chapter 16 verse 10. That verse isn't just encouragement. It's a description of how trust gets built. How you handle a $47 shortfall is the actual interview for something far larger. Not because God is watching to punish you if you panic, but because genuine capacity gets built in small moments, not big ones. Think about the quiet crossroads that only you know about. The invitation you declined because you truly didn't have the extra $20. The moment you could have exaggerated to a landlord and didn't. The bill you could have ignored and you called anyway. Those moments feel invisible. They're not. The pressure isn't just about cash flow. It's forming something in you, a kind of structural integrity that can't be downloaded or borrowed. And here's the thing that might reframe your whole season. God tends to build character before he builds assignment. The delay you're frustrated by may actually be the most productive period of your life. It's just that the work is happening somewhere you can't see on a bank statement. The cuts that feel too precise to be random. Now, here's something worth noticing. Look at what has been removed. For a lot of people in this kind of season, there's a strange pattern. The extras disappear, but the essentials keep showing up. The subscription gets cut, the travel stops, the lifestyle compresses, and yet somehow, every month, food is still on the table. Rent gets covered, sometimes in ways you can't fully explain. An unexpected gift arrives exactly when you needed it. John chapter 15 verse 2 says God prunes the branches that are already bearing fruit, not to kill them, but so they bear more. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. John chapter 15 verse 2. Pruning feels like loss, but it has a direction. There's a difference between something falling apart and something being carefully shaped. If the pain in your finances feels specific, almost surgical, that precision might be worth sitting with. There's a widow in 2 Kings 4 whose miracle didn't begin with abundance. It began with empty vessels. She had to go gather them first, hollow, dry, nothing in them, and the oil didn't flow until she had containers ready. Empty wasn't her failure, empty was her capacity. Maybe what feels like lack is actually God asking, what kind of vessel are you becoming? The quiet pull towards something unconventional. This is the sign that's easiest to dismiss, so pay attention. In this kind of season, many people describe a growing restlessness with what used to make sense. Old strategies feel heavy. The hustle that worked before now produces nothing but exhaustion, and at the same time, there's this quiet, almost embarrassing nudge towards something that doesn't look impressive yet. A new skill, a dormant calling, a ministry, a niche, a direction that the people around you wouldn't fully understand. The world's advice is, grind harder, diversify faster, push through. And sometimes that's right. But sometimes the push is moving you away from the very thing you're being redirected toward. Before Joseph managed the economy of Egypt, he spent years learning how to steward what belonged to someone else, in an environment where he had no public platform and no obvious future. The hidden season wasn't wasted time, it was where the actual preparation happened. Perhaps the nudge you keep brushing aside, the one that seems too small or too strange or too slow, deserves a second look. Provision and alignment have a way of moving together, and scarcity, as painful as it is, has a way of making your hearing clearer. When you don't have 30 options in front of you, the one still, small direction becomes harder to ignore. When your thinking starts to shift, there's a moment, and you'll know it when it comes, when something changes on the inside before anything changes on the outside. You stop opening your banking app in dread. You start tracking, not because someone told you to, but because you actually care about being a good steward of whatever you have, even if it's small. You think about giving differently. You start building small systems, clarifying priorities, cleaning up old patterns. You go from asking, how do I survive this month, to asking something quieter and bigger. Am I actually becoming someone who knows what to do with what I'm praying for? Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 18 says, God gives the power to get wealth. It is He who gives you power to get wealth. Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 18. That word, power, it's not just money landing in your lap. It's capacity, infrastructure, identity. It's becoming, over time, the kind of person through whom resources can move without being destroyed by them. And Psalm chapter 66 verse 12 holds this whole season with such tenderness. We went through fire and through water, but you brought us out to rich fulfillment. Psalm chapter 66 verse 12, not around it, through it. If you're in the middle of it right now, the tightness, the uncertainty, the quiet, you are not forgotten. You are not behind. And this may not be the end of something. It may be the beginning of something you don't yet have words for. Tell me in the comments, which of these 5 signs are you in right now? Drying streams, character testing, precision pruning, that quiet, unconventional pull, or a shift in how you think. And if you want to share it, add 1 sentence about what God has been teaching you in this season. I read these. Subscribe if you want encouragement that doesn't shame your struggle, but helps you sit with it, hear clearly in it, and be ready for what God may be building through it.